Touchdown, Alabama, let's get it.
The process, no one can stop this. Hottest show in the streets, I bet you can't top this. Rammer, jammer, yellow hammer, come see how we rock this. Alabama fans the best, there's no way you can top this. Recruiting news and interviews, just sit back and watch this.
Recruiting news and interviews, just sit back and watch this.
The process.
Welcome into The Process, Crimson Tide Recruiting. I am your host, Justin Smith, the scouting and recruiting analyst for Touchdown Alabama magazine. Thank you guys so much for joining me today on our YouTube page. Be sure to hit that subscribe button so you can stay updated on all of our content. You guys can check out The Process every Tuesday and Thursday right here on our YouTube page. Sorry we were unable to put out a show on last Thursday. I was hitting the road, continuing to hit you guys with Tide football recruiting news. I will talk a little bit more about what I learned from my time on the road in the next segment as I break down some recruiting updates. But on this episode of The Process, I actually wanted to take a look at how the month of August will play out for the Tide on the recruiting trail in this 2021 recruiting cycle. Of course, two of the Tide's top targets in this 2021 class will announce their commitments in the month of August. You may have a couple of more guys who may push up their commitment date, but I will dive deeper into that as the show goes on here. But at first, I want to hit you guys with those recruiting updates, keep you guys updated on everything going on in the Tide recruiting world. So with that being said, let's get the process started. We are going to get these recruiting updates started with the Tide being included in a top 10 released by Tim Keenan III on Saturday. This is a kid who has been recruited by the Tide very hard in this 2021 recruiting cycle, one of their top in-state targets out of Ramsey High School in Birmingham, Alabama. We hosted Keenan on The Process a couple of episodes back. He talked about his relationship with the Tide's coaching staff, talked about where they stand in his recruitment. Be sure to check out that episode. He talked about some of the other teams that were pushing for him as well, and as some of them were included in that top 10 that he released on Saturday. Saturday was also the first day that seniors got an opportunity to receive official offers from the schools that had verbally offered them in the past. Of course, the Tide officially offered all of their top targets and all of their commits as well. One of those guys who received the official offer from the Tide, and Terrion Arnold, the 4-star defensive back out of Tallahassee, Florida. I got a chance to catch up with him when I hit the road. You guys check out my video interview with Arnold on touchdownalabama.com. It is a subscriber only video, so be sure to pick up your subscription to touchdownalabama.com. I also got a chance to catch up with Deontay Lawson, one of the Tide's commits in his 2021 recruiting class, 4-star linebacker out of Mobile Christian School. You guys check out my interview with him as well. We have something in the works with both of those guys that we will be dropping soon, with Deontay Lawson, of course, being an Alabama commit, and also Terrion Arnold being one of the Tide's top defensive back targets in his 2021 recruiting class. So be sure to stay updated and stay locked in the Touchdown Alabama's YouTube page. We will drop those special things that we have in store for those guys on touchdownalabama.com soon. I also caught up with 2021 defensive end Christian Zachary, another guy to know here. Christian Zachary out of Georgia. The Tide is still recruiting him very hard here. He actually got a chance to talk with Nick Saban recently. I caught up with Zachary to talk about his conversations with Nick Saban, his conversation with the Tide's coaching staff as a whole. He said they have a great relationship. You guys check out that article as well. I will drop the link in the description of this video. I also got a chance to catch up with one of the Tide's top offensive lineman targets in his 2021 recruiting class moving forward, in William Griffin Parker, the 3-star offensive lineman out of Tennessee, out of Nashville, Tennessee. He talked about the Tide's current offensive line class, which looks to be pretty impressive at this very point. He said he feels this class can be the best class ever, and he think he can really strive if he was able to join this group. He had a lot of great things to say about that. Also talked about his contact with the Tide's coaching staff as he is set to announce his commitment on September 4th. But those are the recruiting updates I wanted to provide you guys with. I'm going to dive into the two guys who have their commitment dates set for the month of August. Of course, they are two of the Tide's top targets. Looking at Monkel Goodwin's recruitment here, he's a 2021 four-star defensive end out of Maryland. He is set to announce his commitment on August 15th. He will choose from the schools that are listed in his top 5. He updated his top 5 recently and included the Tide, Texas A&M, Arizona State, Kentucky, and Clemson. Of course, I always felt that Clemson was going to make their way into his updated top school list after offering him after he released that original top 5. So I'm not surprised to see the Tigers here. I see that Kentucky is starting to try to make a move in Arizona State as well, but I still feel that the Tide and the Aggies are the two favorites at this point heading into his upcoming decision. There are plenty of reasons to believe that the Tide is in a great position with Goodwin heading into his decision as well. They have been recruiting him for more than a year. The Tide offered him in March of 2019, was able to get him on campus 2 months later. In June, was able to see him in a camp setting. He got a chance to work out in front of Nick Saban, got a chance to work out in front of the Tide's outside linebacker coach Salson Siri. He also had a lengthy conversation with Nick Saban after that visit. We got a chance to catch up with Goodwin after that first visit to Tuscaloosa, which was actually his first visit to any school ever as a recruit. So I think that is something that is pretty interesting as well. I will drop the link to that article in the description of this video. But the Tide has constantly stayed in contact with Goodwin here. He recently got a chance to get on a Zoom call with Nick Saban. He has been in contact with multiple members of the Tide's coaching staff, including one of the more prominent members of the Tide staff here. When you look at the 2021 recruiting class of Charles Huff, a guy who has been very valuable for the Tide here in this 2021 recruiting cycle so far. Goodwin has a good relationship with Coach Huff. Of course, he told me recently that he loves the Tide's coaching staff. In my most recent talks with this four-star prospect, you guys can check out that article as well. I will drop that link in the description of this video. So I think the Tide is in a great position with him heading into that August 15th decision. I think this would be a great pickup for the Tide as they want to continue to add talent, especially on the defensive side of football when it comes to the defensive line group here. Already have an impressive offensive line group going. They kind of want to turn their attention towards the defensive side of football moving forward in the 2021 recruiting cycle. And I think Monkel Goodwin will be a nice addition, a scrappy edge rusher, a guy who's not afraid to go after the football when it's not directed towards him. That's what I think is his most impressive thing about his game, is the fact that he tacks the ball when the play is not directed towards him. So Monkel Goodwin is definitely someone to look out for and pay attention to for the rest of the month of August. Kyrie Jackson is the other Tide target who will announce his commitment on August 15th. The JUCO prospect is one of the bigger defensive backs in this 2021 recruiting cycle. When you look at a guy who stands 6'4" and weighs more than 190 pounds, a kid who's not afraid to come down and lower the boom, not afraid to make contact from that cornerback position, which is something I really think that the Tide's coaching staff really likes about his game. The Tide is included in the top 4 of the list of schools that he will choose from. I think the 2 teams to pay attention to here are the Tide in Oklahoma. I think those are going to be the 2 schools it is going to come down to. Of course, the Tide has done a great job of recruiting defensive backs in this 2021 recruiting class so far, and I'm pretty sure that they want to add a JUCO prospect in this class because they may lose Patrick Surtain they will most likely lose Patrick Surtain at the end of the season. And you have to also pay attention to the transfer portal, especially at the defensive back position, because the room can get crowded at times. So guys may want to transfer, and the Tide may lose a couple of guys. Will definitely lose a couple of guys at the end of the season. So it'll be very beneficial for them to have a JUCO prospect come in this 2021 recruiting cycle, and Kyrie Jackson looks to be like he is the guy that they want to bring in to fill that slot, a guy who has experience at the college level. You get a chance to bring them in to a freshman group in this 2021 recruiting cycle, and you hope that he can make an immediate impact in his junior season. So Kyrie Jackson will announce his commitment on August 15th. The Tide has done a great job of staying involved in his recruitment. They were always listed in his top school list as he continued to cut it since they offered him. So I think they are in a great position with this JUCO prospect. He will announce his commitment on the same day as Goodwin, on August 15th, it could be a day where the Tide could land 2 commitments in one day, which will be huge for the Tide here. And when you look at their 2021 recruiting class, having 16 commitments at this moment, if you land both of these guys, that's 18 commitments, and that means that this class is pretty much full at that point in terms of the majority of it. So it's not going to be too many spots left. When you look at 18 guys, you probably want to bring in north of 25 guys here, so it's not that many spots left. So you may see a lot of talk going around about who is a take and who is not a take. This is the point of the recruiting cycle where we see guys who the Tide may have liked at one point. They may pull off on those guys because they like another guy, limited space. You have to be more strategic in your moves and more strategic in your decisions, and I think the Tide's coaching staff will most definitely do it. But Kyrie Jackson is a guy to look out for, along with Goodwin, 2 guys that will announce their commitments on August 15th. Some side notes here for a couple of other guys to pay attention to when it comes to guys who may cut down the top school list down in the future. I talked about Tim Keenan III earlier in the show. He has a top 10 at the moment. We could see him cut down the top 10 soon, especially with him most likely not being able to visit all 10 schools. Even if they're able to take visits, it is almost impossible to think that he will be able to visit 10 schools. I think he will cut down his top school list from a top 10 to a smaller top school list. You have to keep your eyes on Quincy McKinstry as well, the 5-star athlete out of Pinson Valley High School in Pinson, Alabama. Robbie Ooks, a guy who has a top 2 of the Tide of Virginia Tech. You have to keep your eyes on him as well. Another guy to pay attention to when it comes to a guy who may release a top school list soon is Terrion Arnold, the 2021 4-star defensive back out of Tallahassee, Florida. I got a chance to catch up with recently. He did say that he wants to drop a top school list soon. Of course, he has never dropped a top school list in terms of cutting his top school list down from his offers. So he has never released any type of top school list or anything like that, but it looks as if he's going to drop one soon, and a lot of different teams are pushing for him. Of course, the Tide is included. I think they will most definitely be included in a top school list that he drops, but I think it's going to paint a clearer picture of some other schools who are also pushing for the Florida prospect. That will do it for this episode of The Process. Thank you guys so much for joining me today on our YouTube page. Be sure to hit that subscribe button. Then head over to touchdownalabama.com. Pick up a subscription. With that subscription, you will be able to read all of our subscriber-only articles. Get your hands on our yearly print magazine issue. Also get a chance to read all of our in-depth scouting reports on each of the Tide's commits in each recruiting class. So be sure to pick up that subscription. It will be well worth it. So go ahead and head over to touchdownalabama.com, pick up that subscription, then head over to your app store, whether that is the Google Play Store or the Apple App Store. Be sure to download the Touchdown Alabama app so you can get notifications sent to your mobile device here from the Touchdown Alabama staff. As always, thank you guys so much for joining me today on The Process. I am Justin Smith, the scouting and recruiting analyst of Touchdown Alabama magazine.